What's up, Bears? So, Sony has finally unveiled the curtain on Project Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
That guy's Spartacus.
No, not that Spartacus. And not Manu Bennett Spartacus. I'm talking about the Netflix for Games Game Pass competitor that PlayStation was expected to unveil. And in terms of its value, it seems like it is a pretty good deal on the surface, and especially for the subscription service of PlayStation 4 and 5 games. It seems like Sony is sticking to the mantra of their present-day offerings. But the big thing that everyone is looking at is the ability to play PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games all on the subscription service for a higher tier. That's a little bit more than, if you pay for both a PS Plus subscription and the PS Now subscription itself. And I look at that at face value and I say, wow, so this is pretty cool. Being able to play old games on my modern hardware, finally, all in one place. But then you realize Sony is going to Sony. And the reason why I say that is, well, you're looking at it right now, PlayStation 3 games are streamable only. You can only play them on the cloud, and your mileage may vary in that experience. No, it's not going to be Kingdom Hearts on Switch bad, but mileage may vary, and there's a lot of games on PS3 that require precise input, and you wonder how it's going to control. So not being able to download those games is a huge bummer. But the big thing that they said right at the beginning is up to 340 PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and P games. 340? The PS2 has 1,200 by itself. I think the PSP has 340 just RPGs. That is a complete bare bones number for all of those consoles. And it does not bode well given Sony's track record. You're talking about a company that released a PlayStation Mini, a competitor to the Nintendo Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic, and offered a just desert selection of games. It was laughable, the selection of games that were on the PlayStation Classic. In addition to that, it wasn't really rich with features. And then you combine that with another classic, and that's PS2 classics on the PlayStation 4. When I saw this get announced initially, I'm like, wow, the PS4 has a built-in PS2 emulator. That's amazing. That's great. I can insert the hundreds of PS2 games that I own into my system and just play them, right? No, it was a digital-only service that you can only download the games, and it was only a select library of games. And we're talking maybe close to a dozen or so. The fact that storefront is still up there, and it shows that it's still up there with the very limited selection. I think I downloaded Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits, and Rogue Galaxy. Those were the only two games on the PS2 Classic service that was like, okay, well, I've never actually played these games, so let me give them a go-around. And the selection of PS2 games on PS4 was just completely laughable. And the fact that this streaming service only has 340 games out of all the classic Sony systems combined. And I just cannot justify paying for a streaming service for a fraction of your library. Yes, you got third-party titles. Yes, you got work out all the licensing deals and everything else that happens with that. But if we're talking about a Netflix of games, if we're talking about a Hulu for games, if we're talking about other services that are being streamed, if you're talking about like a Paramount or Disney or something else, they offer their entire library pretty much to stream, to download. When Disney Plus first released, everyone was like, the entire Disney library for a couple bucks a month? Hell yeah, that's a good value. If you don't combine that with everything else, because if you start getting a shit ton of streaming services all together with their powers combined, they are the same price as cable. So I would hope that in the future Sony would add to their catalog of classic games, but I'm not going to be the one to do this at launch, paying for a subscription service with the hope that Sony eventually does that, because unfortunately they have a proven track record of not being able to give people exactly what they want in terms of retro gaming. I mean, at the very least, you have all the PS1 classics on the PlayStation 3. You should at least make all of those available to download. I do love the fact that Suikoden 1 and 2 are available on the PlayStation Network to download on the PS3. It would be very nice to have those be able to be downloaded again via modern hardware, and also look at the fact that, oh, you own these games, so you can go ahead and download them here without the use of a subscription service. And I just did not see Sony announce that either. It's like, okay, so now I gotta pay a subscription service to play games that I already own? Yeah, Sony is going to Sony. This is the most Sony thing that Sony has ever Sony'd. Yes, we're making Sony a verb, because that's what they do sometimes. And I just look at the track record of the PS2 Classic, the PlayStation Mini, and I even look at things like the Vita and just how quickly they kill support for something if it isn't exactly up to par what they need, even though they themselves offer something stupid inside of it that just turns everybody off to it. And I fear that it's going to be the same thing with the subscription service, where it's just not going to be what it should be on paper. Sony has a giant library of classic hardware and games, and the fact that it's mainly locked behind a subscription service with no alternatives to download even games that you already own digitally. I'll say that again. To me, it's just not a good value. It could be, I guess, a start, but Microsoft already has a big head start on you. Even Amazon Luna, Prime members get 2 games for free, so have that as competition as well. And I played Amazon Luna, and it's got really, really good input. It has really good latency. I don't really feel a delay in input. Even Nintendo is getting in somewhat on the cloud service. I believe that cloud gaming is here to stay. It will drag me into it kicking and screaming, but I do believe that it is here to stay, and it will be an option for gamers moving forward. But if it's the only option, well, that sucks. And if my only option was Sony's PlayStation Plus service, I would think that my gaming days are over. And I just, rehook up all my old hardware, or even use emulators. Because that's the other thing too. Fans have already figured out how to do this. Any PlayStation game you want to play from the past, it's right there on an emulator. Even PlayStation 3 games now. And they're there to download, with quality of life features as well. Playing an old RPG, have to grind it out but don't feel like actually having to grind it out, hit that fast forward button. So if I were to ever take the plunge into PlayStation Plus, these are the features that I would really like to see from it. Is like I said, the quality of life features, like the fast forwarding of games, possibly save states for games that are grueling and have really, really bad pacing otherwise, but would otherwise be pretty fun. The ability to download PS3 games. You can download all the other games and play them offline with the subscription service. It would be nice to be able to do that for PS3 eventually. As I said, fans have figured out an emulator. Why can't Sony figure out a way to emulate that stuff? Being able to actually access the games that you've already purchased, and I'm talking PS3, the PlayStation 1 games on the network that I have already purchased. I would love to be able to play Suikoden 1 and 2 digitally, and be able to do that without having to adhere to a subscription service, because, like I said, I already bought these games. For the ones that are not available on PlayStation Network, a bigger selection to choose from. 340 titles. Completely unacceptable for all of those consoles. And this one is the biggest one, and it's something that could actually be beneficial to Sony, but it also requires new hardware. As of right now, the PS5 only has a Blu-ray lens in it. It is unable to read both DVDs and CDs. So if it were to offer like a backwards compatibility option like Microsoft does, where you just insert the disc of a game, it finds the digital copy of it for you to download, and all of a sudden it says that you own it. Right now, it's physically impossible for Sony to do that with the current PlayStation hardware. I am willing to shell out a little bit of extra money for hardware if you put a second lens in the disk drive that can read PS1, PS2 games, that can read CDs and DVDs. If you can do that and offer a service that Microsoft does, where all I gotta do is just insert the disc and it finds my game on PlayStation Network and I can just download it and play it, that would be a wonderful service. that would be what you do right. As it stands right now, there's only one phrase that can sum up PlayStation Plus. Bare bones. Get it right.